The following show is a Pod Avenue production. You are cordially invited to have dinner with the King. Pull up a chair and join WWE Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler and Glenn Moore. Enjoy.
Jerry, I'm kind of upset with you, buddy.
And about what now?
You had your official grand opening at your barbecue company out there in Cordova, Tennessee on Sunday. And first of all, the invite must have got lost in the mail because I didn't get invited. And I'm upset because you had a eating competition, and I would have won, buddy. I would have won.
Oh, you probably would. They have to feed you with a harpoon, but I don't know. I don't know if you would have won this. Now, listen, you're right. We did have our official grand opening here at the Jerry Lawler's barbecue out here in Cordova on Germantown Park. Man, let me give the whole plug if I can. It's 465 Germantown Road or Germantown Parkway in Memphis, Tennessee. And if you're ever in this area, you got to stop by for lunch or dinner. It's like I said, real Memphis barbecue, brother, and it was good. And we've been open actually 6 weeks, but yesterday we had our official grand opening because the weather was beautiful. We came out here, we set up a ring. We had 3 matches. We had tons of people come out, and I know what you're upset about. We did have an eating contest, a barbecue eating contest, and a guy named Sean Berryhill actually won. He ate 9 barbecue sandwiches. I mean, the king, the big, huge barbecue sandwich that you've had it before. Anyway, he ate 9 of those things yesterday. It was unbelievable. By the time he left, he had an unlisted shirt size. It was huge. It was crazy.
Well, I'm going to top this guy because during the show today, I'm going to attempt to eat 9 of the Kings during the show. So if I'm burping into the microphone or passed out, you gotta help me along.
Well, your favorite food is always thirds anyway, but now you're going to go for ninths, huh?
Ninths.
This is going to be fun to watch. So this will be
bring them on out.
A great show.
Bring them on out.
All right, guys, bring out. You better start with like 4, okay? Anyway, let's get started. What are we going to talk about today, man? It's WrestleMania time. It's Hall of Fame time.
Yes. WrestleMania season, and this episode is going to be talking about some of the inductees of the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2017 because they have a connection to you, and that's the Rock and Roll Express and Rick Rude. And we're going to get to those stories. I have some audio, and a lot of people love the Vince McMahon audio and kind of bringing that into the show. So I have some audio of Rick Rude and you going at it, promos, and also some audio of Lance Russell calling Rick Rude smashing your car in the parking lot during one of the shows with a baseball bat, and you coming out basically in your tighty whities to trying to get Rick away from the car, and Jimmy Hart's there as well. So we have some audio of that.
I think I was actually in the shower when somebody comes in and says, "King, you're not going to believe this. Rick Rude is out there busting your windshield of your car with a baseball bat." That was wild. Rick Rude was something else. So we're going to talk about that and what else.
So it is WrestleMania season. You are the host. But first, let's plug the Twitter. You can follow the show at Dinner with King on Twitter. Make sure to follow that. And we're going to be selling. And a lot of people have been emailing, tweeting us. We're going to be able to buy some shirts of the podcast.
Wow.
We will have some available online, either via some stores or on our own. And if you're going to WrestleMania, we may have some on person when it comes to giving out selling these shirts. And we're going to have some designs being made up. So very quickly, here in the next week, we're going to have some of the Dinner with the King podcast shirts available for purchase.
Glenn, will the shirt have my picture on it?
Yes, definitely.
Will it have your picture on it? If it's so, it's going to have to be. It was about a size 4XL.
Come on. Be a star, Jerry. Be a star.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Jeez. But no, we're going to have some shirts available, different designs from some, we'll have Jerry's face on there, to just some text. So we'll have some different ideas for shirts. So Dinner with King on Twitter, and you can get the links on there when we post them. And I'm sure Jerry will retweet it because he retweets anything with
And I'm sure everybody already follows me on Twitter. It's just at Jerry Lawler, that simple. And I've been tweeting out or retweeting some pictures from yesterday from the grand opening, from my match that I had with Derek King, and Grandmaster Sexay was there too. He wrestled Eric Wayne, and there's some pictures from that. And my good friend Michael Donahue, who is the top reporter from the Commercial Appeal here in Memphis, they had a big story. I'm looking at it right now. Look at this. There's a big story in the today's paper. Oh, you got barbecue sauce on it already, Glenn. Come on. It's my only copy of this paper. Oh, man. Anyway, yeah, big story about it in today's Commercial Appeal here in Memphis. So anyway, it was a good day yesterday. And looking around, got a great crowd in here already today. It's good.
All right, I got one king sandwich down.
You inhaled it. That was amazing.
One down.
You may beat the record today.
Woo, that hit me hard. All right, let's get into the show today. Well, really quick, we all know you retweet everything, Jerry, without reading it.
So what if I just I open up something and I see what looks like a picture of me, I'll retweet it.
Well, you got to read it.
Not anymore. I'm not going to do that.
You got to read. You got to read it first, Jerry.
I'll read them more carefully from now on.
It is WrestleMania week. Jerry, you are the host of the Hall of Fame ceremony, which is taking place on Friday this year. You've been hosting it for X amount of years. I know you have plenty of stories.
That's why we have Glenn here, folks. He does his research.
He do.
Knows. He knows. So what does X amount of years mean?
Too many. How about that? And I know there's been plenty of inductors and inductees that have gone over time when it comes to their speeches.
Oh, really? You think?
Yours was short and sweet. You are a WWE Hall of Famer, it says in the intro. But yours was short and sweet, to the point. It was good. You and William Shatner. But I'm sure there has been plenty of speeches, Michael PSAs, that have gone over time when it comes to their speech. But I'm sure when you're sitting back in the backstage, and I'm sure Vince is back there, I'm sure there's been times to where you're looking at your watch, right?
Oh, yeah. To be honest with you, that does happen on occasion. And the great thing, I think at one time or other, they they would come to the person that was going to make the speech, and you get two speeches out of the deal. You get the person that's inducting the Hall of Famer, and then of course you get the Hall of Famers, the new Hall of Famer speech. So there was at one time, it was like an unofficial time limit. There would be X amount of minutes allotted for each one of those speeches. But to be perfectly honest with you, and to his credit, Vince would always tell everybody, "Hey, you guys, this is your moment. Say what you want to say, and just do what you want to do." And so the time limit was always implied. And some guys have gotten in the past, guys and girls have gotten out there and just got on a roll and don't know when to stop. They just start falling in love with the sound of their own voice, and they just go and go and go. And I don't know, of course you don't remember, but and I don't either, but apparently way back in the vaudeville days when there would be different acts, appearing out on stages and everything, if some act was really bombing, if they were really doing terrible, somehow this long hook, a big long metal hook, would mysteriously appear from the side of the stage, and it would come out, and they would actually hook the actor by the neck and pull him right off the stage. And so hence the term "get the hook" came about from that. And so I can't tell you how many times we've sat in the back waiting for somebody to finish their speech, and Vince or somebody else look up at me and say, "Oh, King, please get the hook." And but we just, they just continue to go on until, but actually, if you remember, one year we did get the hook for real in the form of Kane. Kane was sent out to kind of get the hook on Mr. T. Remember Mr. T? What year was Mr. T there? 2014, I think, right?
Yes, it was 2014.
Oh, and he started talking about his mama.
Yeah.
Mr. T and his mama. And I love Mr. T. We had a chance to meet with him and talk to him before and after the the Hall of Fame ceremonies. And I understand he might, for a few moments, he was a little bit upset with the fact that they sent Kane out during I hope it was towards the end, but he said right in the middle of my speech. But anyway, if that was the middle, we had a lot more Yo Mamas coming up after that. But anyway, Vince sent Kane out and to try to tell Mr. T to kind of wrap things up. But that happens. And so I think maybe in order to, is this the smallest amount this year of inductees going in? I think maybe they decided in order to limit the length of time, we'll just have fewer inductees going in every year. I'm not sure if that's the case or not, but it sometimes goes a little long. I'll never forget when I was getting inducted in 2007. Back in 2007, of course, and it's going to happen again this year. Back then, the Hall of Fame ceremony, it would last, oh my goodness, live and in person. It might last 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
And then they would condense it down to an hour version to show on USA Network. So, and I think they're doing that again this year. So everybody, naturally, you wanted to be on. This was before the WWE Network. So if you weren't seen on the USA show, you didn't get seen. Your induction part didn't get seen. So everybody was scrambling, wanted to be part of the hour that was going to be on the USA Network. So that's how I went out and found William Shatner to do the induction, because let's face it, William Shatner, he's a television icon. He's a superstar. He's he's been around forever, and so you got William Shatner on the show. You're definitely going to be in the hour that's going to be on the USA Network. So a friend of mine who's an agent out in California, actually one of my agents, and he's real good friends with Bill, and he hooked me with him and put me on the phone with him, and it was so great. The first time I spoke to him, he said, and of course Bill and I had the altercation back on Raw years ago, where he came on when he was plugging his show Tech Wars. That he had just come out with, and he and I had the confrontation during one of King's courts, where we actually had some physicality. He gave me one of those famous alien monkey flips that he was famous for on Star Trek. I used to watch him on Star Trek, as Captain Kirk, and he would always be fighting some alien, and he would drop down and do the classic wrestling hold, the monkey flip thing. And so that's what he and I did on the on that version of King's Court, and that was our hookup as far as him coming back to induct me in the Hall of Fame. And I'll never forget, they put me with him on the telephone, and he said, "Jerry, I just want to know one thing." And I said, "What's that, Bill?" He said, "Was I really your first choice to induct you?" And I said, "Oh, without a doubt, yes, of course you were." And it was great, because it all worked out good. That put me right in the upper echelon of the superstars that year that were getting inducted, so that I made the USA portion of the show. Unfortunately, when we got there in Detroit, when we got there to the auditorium that we were going to do the show in, first thing, William came over and he asked me, of course, he's in his 80s, but the guy is just amazing. He's just full of energy and everything, just a wonderful guy. But Bill came over and said, "Jerry, how far away is the teleprompter?" Because for reading the speech, the introduction and everything, my eyesight's not that great. He says, "The teleprompter very far away?" And I went, "Ooh, Bill, we don't use teleprompters." This was like the color drained out of his face. He went, "What?" And I said, "No, we don't have teleprompters." And so, we have our writers had written Bill this long. Oh my gosh! When I saw it, I went, "Oh no!" They'd written him this long introduction, the things to say about me. So when it comes time, we're on the show, we're out there live, and it comes time for him to do this introduction speech. He goes out, and there's he's just got the papers. He's got no teleprompter, so he's got the papers on the podium in front of him, and he starts trying to read this stuff. And I guess it was too far away. The next thing you know, he's holding the papers up to his face, closer and closer, trying to read all of my accolades, this sort of thing. And man, the crowd there in Detroit, all of a sudden they just turned and they started this chant like, "You don't know him, you don't know him." And I was like humiliated. I was so sorry for the guy out there. And so finally, when he said, "Here's Jerry the King Lawler," I came out and I grabbed his hand, and he said, "Oh man, tough crowd." I said, "Yeah, I apologize, Bill." And but anyway, it worked out great. And he and I, he's just a great guy, and it was a lot of fun having him do that introduction. But the crowds at Hall of Fame, I guess. Well, we can only blame ourselves. We've let or we've encouraged in the WWE the crowd to be part of the show. I mean, and that's what they expect to do, So that's why I know Chris Jericho went off one time on one of his podcasts about chants at the Hall of Fame and people yelling, and they do give sort of a warning before the Hall of Fame starts. Hey, please, no shouting out things or that sort of stuff. But hey, as I said, the WWE is encouraged, and I think it's great for the fans to feel like they're part of the show at every event. I mean, and the chants are a big part of that. So that those kind of things are going to happen sometimes, and even at the Hall of Fame. So that was my night there with William Shatner. It turned out to be a little bit embarrassing, and we've talked about it since a couple of times. But that's my main memory from being inducted into the Hall of Fame. I really, thinking back on it, I almost wish that it was JR and I both went in at the same time. I think I should have got to induct JR, and JR should have got to induct me. That would have been probably a little more appropriate. But it was great having William Shatner there. Yeah,
I was going to ask you if William Shatner was unable to induct you, who was your backup?
I also thought about Lance Russell would have been awesome. The only thing, and with Lance, he just hadn't had that much national exposure. A lot of the people may not have known. And that's one of the other things that you try to do, especially in the show. They try to keep both the inductors, need to be, or they feel like they need to be, a nationally known figure in the wrestling world. And of course, I mean, Lance was prominent in my career. There wouldn't even be a Jerry the King Lawler without Lance Russell. But and I had the honor of going out and inducting Lance into the Cauliflower Alley's Hall of Fame ceremony out there in Las Vegas a couple of years ago. So Lance was probably my second choice. I don't know. Back at the time, I really wanted to try to get some Hollywood star. And man, when William Shatner came on board early on, there wasn't even a thought about a second choice. He truly was my first choice, and it worked out well.
Now I want to know, when it comes to hosting, is there a lot of prep time you have to go to, or they give you a script? I mean, you're a natural when it comes in front of a mic and a camera, but is there a lot of prep time for you personally when it comes to hosting the Hall of Fame?
Honestly, no, there's not at all. I mean, I kind of get there. I just kind of get there and hang out. There's not really a lot of prep at all. They do a very, very loose, the rehearsal process for it is very loose. It's just a quick run through because, Vince or nobody wants to really hear what any of the inductees or the Hall of Fame inductees are going to say. They just want to leave that. They want that to be spontaneous. They want them to not. They would really like for them to not have that much rehearsed. But of course, they all do. Everybody that's doing this, you prepare for this for weeks. But the actual rehearsal of the show is just basically a blocking run through. I'll go out and say, hey, and our next inductee is going to be whoever, in this case, maybe, hey, introduce Jim Cornette and say a couple words about Jim Cornette. And then Jim will walk out during the rehearsal and he won't say anything. He'll just walk out and go up to the podium, and the camera people and all the people will see where they're going to be. And the guy will have his finger on the mute button, and the censors will be all ready to go. But I mean, no, the rehearsal for Hall of Fame is really easy, and I'll have one of the writers will sort of be assigned to me, and he'll come with suggestions and different things about that I can say or can't say. But the great thing about that, and the great thing about Vince as far as the Hall of Fame is, he really leaves that up to the individuals. He really makes it their moment. It's not one of these really controlled things where, hey, you've got to say this, you can't say that. It's really their moment to shine, and that's the way it goes. So it's not a really rehearsed show at all.
I hope they have they bring a cake out for Cornette.
And look, what's that? Is that your third?
Third. I got my third one down. I'm almost there, man. I'm feeling it though. I feel it lodged right here. It's really. I'm gonna.
It's right there in your third chin.
Come on, be a star, King.
Well, look, I can say that stuff about you, Glenn. Come on, we know each other.
I know.
But
all right, let's get into the Rock and Roll Express and Rick Rude. Let's go to Rock and Roll Express first because you are. If it wasn't for you, King, Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson probably wouldn't be in the WWE Hall of Fame. We're going to be because you created the Rock and Roll Express.
Oh, you're trying to lay the blame on me, huh? Now you know what? It's funny that you say that. But who knows what their careers would have been? I mean, these are two talented guys. Who knows what their careers would have been had it gone in a different direction? Had had those two guys not been in our Memphis territory at the time that they were? Because for a lot of the time there, Ricky Gibson came into our territory first. That was Robert's bigger brother. And Ricky was a star, and then he brought in Robert, and they were a tag team. And so, but we just sort of looked at Ricky as kind of, I don't know, Ricky was kind of more of a singles guy, and the way the whole thing came about was we had just, and I can't say we, I got to give basically Jerry Jarrett all the credit on putting together Steve Kern and Stan Lane and calling them the Fabulous Ones. And he got those two guys, and they were wrestling as singles. And he just said, Steve, Stan, come here. Look, here's an idea I got for you. These music videos that we're doing right now, it was the dawn of MTV. Music videos were red hot. He said, I'm going to put you two guys together. I want to get you these outfits, and we're going to make some videos and based on like the song Sharp Dressed Man by ZZ Top and all this sort of stuff. And they put these guys in sequin tuxedos. You know, they were both bleach blonde, young, good looking guys, great physiques. And the girls were going crazy for them. So, man, they put them together with these music videos and it just went through the roof. I mean, it went off the charts. These guys, this was at a time when it was like, oh gosh, I mean, you would wrestle at least 6 and sometimes 7 nights a week at that time, and you would drive 300 to 400 miles to a different city every night to make these shots. And you know, the money was okay. And I'll tell you, but when you really felt like you made it or were doing well in our Memphis territory, if you were pulling down $1,000 a week, that was like your goal. I mean, you know, that was when you were in the main event and you were doing well each night and drawing big crowds. You know, you would hit $1,000 a week, and so that was a big deal. The Fabulous Ones, when Jerry put those two guys together, and they started going around. Not only were they making more than $1,000 a week on their payoffs, they were selling $1,000 a week worth of little 4x6 pictures that we sold for $1 a piece. $1 a piece. These guys were selling $1,000 a week in pictures. That's how hot they were. That's how big, things were at that time in the territory for the Fabulous Ones. And so Jerry and I, owning the territory together, we were always not in competition, but we were trying to do, everything we could to keep the crowds up and to draw bigger and bigger crowds. And so when he had this hit putting these two guys together, I'll admit I was kind of jealous. I thought, man, that's a great idea, a great concept, and a great thing. And so I wanted to try to do the same thing. So I looked around and picked out two of the youngest guys in the territory at the time was Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson. And so I brought those guys in. I just kind of sprung it on them as a surprise. I went out and I went out to a store and bought up a bunch of bandanas and these colorful scarves and that sort of thing, and a couple of rock and roll type T-shirts. And I came in one night, Coliseum, and I got Ricky and Robert in the dressing room, and I said, here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to tie a couple of bandanas around your wrist. I want you to tie them around your shoulders up at the top of your arms. I took the T-shirts and I took some scissors and I cut this was back when, like now girls go out and pay $1,000 for a pair of jeans that have already been ripped up, right? Yeah. And it's crazy. And so this was back, when that fad was just starting. So I ripped these T-shirts up and put holes all in it, that sort of thing, tied the bandanas around their boots, around their ankles, and I said, you guys, we're going to make some music videos with you. We're going to call you the Rock and Roll Express. And I think the first one we did was to the Kiss song, I Want to Rock and Roll All Night. And boom, just like the Fabulous Ones, these guys were an instant success. It was just, and I got to tell you, it was, of course, it was Rick and Robert. They gelled together perfectly as a team. And the high flying, the excitement, the youngest guy, they were flying all over the place out there. It was really exciting. And that rock music blaring in the background, and their music videos, and man, they were just right up there with the Fabulous Ones in an instant. It was just a great creation, but I got to give, I came up with the idea, but those guys, they deserve all the credit because they're the ones that lived. They lived the gimmick, so to speak. I mean, that was back when that was the term for something like that. It was a gimmick. What's your gimmick? Hey, I'm the king. Okay, what's your gimmick? We're the Rock and Roll Express. Well, they lived their gimmick, and it paid off for them. And I don't know if there's anybody around that's had any more longevity with the same gimmick as Ricky and Robert. I mean, it's been, these guys are out there every single week somewhere wrestling. Rock and Roll Express are on independent shows all over the world, and they have really. I'm so proud of the fact that I had a hand in putting those two guys together and with what they've done with it over the years.
They started, that was 1983. I was born in 1983, Jerry.
Really?
Yeah. That's how long.
I heard a story about when you were born. I heard that when you were born, the doctor gave you a smack, and then I heard the nurses got in a few shots too. Is that true?
That is true. That's a true story, King.
It's an old Rodney Dangerfield joke, one of my favorites all the time.
Yeah. And I know I watched them wrestle when I came down to Jackson to watch you and Terry Funko at it. They were wrestling on the same card with the Lance Russell tribute show in Jackson, Tennessee at the Ullman Arena. So they're still out. They were on the deletion facing the Hardy Boys, Broken Matt Hardy. That was recent. That was last year. So they're still around.
Well, we got another show. We got another show coming up in June at that same arena, at the Jackson Arena, and it's going to be. I think they're going to title it Monday Night Memories. They're going to bring back every star that's still alive that was back in the heyday of Memphis wrestling. Handsome Jimmy Valiant, Jimmy Hart's going to be there. Dundee, myself, Jerry Calhoun, all of the even Austin Idol. And Jim Cornette is going to be there. Austin Idol is going to be there. All of the stars, and that's going to be in June in Jackson, Tennessee. And the Rock and Roll Express are going to be there as well. So that's going to be our Memphis Monday Night Memory show.
Are you wrestling?
I am going to be wrestling. Yes, I'm going to be wrestling. Well, that part of the show is not completely put together yet. It's just, it's a possibility that I'll be going against Austin Idol and to get some final closure for all of these years of torment that guy put me through.
Oh, and that's a whole different episode. That's a multi-episode. You and Austin Idol, that definitely.
Oh yeah, yes. We'll be talking about Austin Idol in the future, without a doubt.
Definitely. Moving on to a guy that you were more involved with when it comes to matchups and in the ring, a guy of the name of Rick Rude, who will be inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame this year. And I have some great audio I'll be sprinkling in during this segment.
I got a big match coming up this week, and you're the special referee. And so from me to you, if you mess me around, you're a dead man. Because you're right, just because we're partners, we don't have to be friends. And I realize we ain't friends, brother, because you've done a lot to me in the past, and I haven't forgotten about it.
Well, come on, Rick. I think
that's the way it is, man.
Well, I think you've made your point.
Let me make my point, Lance. You don't have to try to make excuses for him. First of all, I don't like you sticking your stinking finger in my chest. And second of all, let me tell you this. You're right. There are a lot of things that is not easily forgotten. I'll never forget, as long as I live, the day that you trotted out in this parking lot and took a baseball bat like a yellow coward and smashed in my car. I won't forget.
I'm telling you, you mess me around and you're a dead man, because to me, you ain't
put your
nothing.
finger in my chest anymore.
You don't tell me what to do, I do what I want.
Come on, Rick.
Don't touch me anymore, all right?
This is when Rick Rude. This is before everybody knows him as the guy coming out with his gyrating hips and making fun of the men in the crowd and wooing all the ladies. This is before NWO. This is before DX. You know, he was big in Memphis as a heel. He had Angel, his valet. He was smashing cars with bats and going after you in the parking lot. I mean, you guys had I know it wasn't a long one like an Austin Idol rivalry, but you guys had a very heated. And it lasted only, wasn't that long, but at the time it was heated, man.
Well, I like to say, we've talked about how many times and how many superstars that went on to, showcase their talents in the WWE and in the WCW, but they cut their teeth, basically got their start right there in Memphis. I mean, Memphis was just such a great territory for guys to come into. And at that time, at the time of guys like Rock and Roll Express and the Fabulous Ones, we had so much great talent that we were drawing tremendous crowds. And there wasn't, when I talk about guys making $1,000 a week, that wasn't happening all over the country, but it was happening in Memphis at the time. And so guys wanted to be there, and people like Rick Rude coming in. I mean, Rick was just one of those guys that you knew the moment you laid eyes on him that he was money. I mean, he had the tremendous physique, and you say it was before that time, but I remember when Rick started there in Memphis, he already had those airbrushed tights. I was always jealous of. I said, man, who's the artist that does the airbrush work? It's great airbrush work on his tights and that sort of thing. As a matter of fact, I kind of swiped that idea from him. I started airbrushing some of my own tights. But when I saw Rick Rude wearing them, but yeah, Rick was a great talent. He was tremendous mic skills. He could cut a promo as good as anybody. And then he beautiful valet, Angel. I'm not really even sure what her real name was, but he called her Angel. Just a beautiful young lady. And so it was one of those things where the guys would be fans of his just because of Angel. And then he was such a like I said, he was just such a magnificent physical specimen. It was hard for the women to dislike him either, but he was a great heel in the sense that, man, he could cut a promo that made everybody want to see this guy get his brains beat out. And of course we did a lot of things with Rick, the car incident in the parking lot, and just all sorts of things. But Rick was just, he was from the get-go.
It was right off the bat, and he had, and his promos, especially with
Speaking
Angel.
of bat, that's right off the bat. That's what he used to break my car windshield out with.
And you coming out in your, I don't think you were wearing tighty whities, but you were coming out. I think you're blue. You were wearing blue underwear or something. And,
I don't know, but I don't wear underwear, to be honest with you. But
right. Oh God, that's too TMI, Jerry.
I know.
Oh,
but anyway,
hold on. I think I'm barfing up. Oh,
there comes the third barbecue back up. Okay, Glenn, come on.
All right, I'm buying it. But okay,
yeah,
I gotta ask you.
Right, I was in the shower, and somebody comes in and says, "Hey, Rick Rude's busting your car windshield out." It was great.
I have to ask you, was that really your car?
I don't know if I've told this story before, but let's see. Did I already tell you about the fact that I had a really close personal friend named Pat Collins? Did we talk about this before?
I do not think so, but no.
Okay, well here comes a revelation.
Okay.
Now our Saturday morning TV was on WMC Channel 5 in Memphis, and that TV station was located on Union Avenue, and it was about maybe 5 minutes at the most from a street that was kind of adjacent to it called Summer Avenue. Now on Summer Avenue, I had a really great friend, and he's still a great friend of mine today. Just spoke with him last week, named Pat Collins, and he had this place called Pat Collins Auto Glass. And I did commercials. Well, I didn't then. I started doing them later on after we had so much work for Pat. But Pat, if anything ever happened to my car windshield or anybody's car windshield in wrestling, you could take the car from Channel 5 to Pat Collins, and he would have you a new windshield in less than an hour in your car. So once we found out that Pat could work so well with us, we used him a lot. At the drop of a hat, somebody's car windshield would get busted out in the parking lot of Channel 5. And so, yeah, that was every time you saw that was my car. One time, Eddie Gilbert and I went out and were wrestling and fighting in the parking lot, and he picked me up and body slammed me through a windshield. That was somebody else's car. I don't even know. I don't even remember whose car that was. But the great thing about it was Pat Collins Auto Glass would fix our car windshields for us in less than an hour after they got busted out there. And Rick Rude took a baseball bat and busted the whole windshield out. The glass went all over the front seat. I mean, you just take it right down to Pat, man. They'd vacuum all that thing out. It would just be like brand new in no time. So if anybody ever got a rock, a little ding in their windshield, or a rock come up while you're driving home from a town and put a little crack in your windshield, well, the next week it would get busted completely out on TV. And then it would get fixed by Pat right afterwards.
That's great. I was wondering. They wouldn't smash Jerry's car. I mean, there's probably some other guy or just a car they got from the junkyard or something to smash up. No,
that was my car. Oh, wow. Anytime like we had a lot of cars figured heavily in our Memphis promotion. Because it was just something people could relate to. I'll never forget. I had a red Corvette, and I was always a big fan of like the 1967 Corvettes. And somewhere in the 70s, I bought this red 1967 Corvette. It was just a beautiful thing. And so I think we started out with Jimmy Valiant. We had a match, and I think Jimmy Valiant won it from me, and he called it the Blood Red Corvette. And then we went back and forth over that, and then won another Corvette in a battle royal over the years. And then Bill Dundee and our feud, he and I traded cars back and forth by winning them back and forth and then busting the windshields out of them. And so, yeah, cars have always figured heavily, but they were always our cars.
Okay. All right. Very interesting. I was very, very curious, and I'm just going to play some audio right now of that incident with Lance Russell calling the action.
He tore the windshield right out of Jerry Lawler's car. Well, he's the one that's going to have to pay for it. Uh-oh, here comes Lawler. Get him, Jerry.
All right, Jerry. Going into the Zert. I'm 6 down. I don't think I'm going to make it after your no underwear comment. I don't think I can do it anymore.
Definitely not going to make it.
No. Thanks to the not wearing underwear comment, I'm not going to be able to make it. I'm still choked up. Anyway, this morning we're recording here on a Monday. This is released on Wednesday, but Al Roker is going to be a part of WrestleMania. He's going to be the ring announcer for the Miz Cena match.
Yeah, I just heard that, and I'm looking forward to having a confrontation with Al Roker. I've held a grudge against Al Roker since. Man, I can't even remember what year. I'm sure you'll be able to look this up and find out exactly what year.
I think it's almost been 10 years, I think.
Oh, no, it's been definitely more than 10 years, I'm sure.
10 years?
Yeah. And that's how long I've held this grudge against Al Roker, because of the fact that one of the things that I loved my entire life, I mean, from the time I was a kid, it was one of the things I looked forward to all year long is the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And just, I don't know if it was the fact of the way that I was such a fan of Christmas and waiting on the fact that, the highlight of the parade was always the appearance of Santa Claus at the end of the parade. But I just always loved and looked forward to the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And then when I got into the WWE, one year they come to us and say, hey, how'd you like to be in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade? And I say, are you kidding me? This is like a dream come true. I mean, I watch it, without fail every single year. That's one of my favorite things ever on television. To actually be in it, to be a part of the parade, was going to be phenomenal. And so the WWE had this big float, and they actually had a ring built on the float, and they had Vince McMahon was there, Triple H was on there, me, JR, a couple other superstars, on this float, and we're going to get a chance to ride in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And oh my gosh, and one of the girls, to try to kind of help you with what year this was, The Sopranos were just starting on TV, and the young girl, the daughter from The Sopranos, was in the float right in front of us, and I remember getting to meet her. But it also went down in history. The year that we were on there was like one of the coldest ever. I think the temperature was like about 13 degrees. It was crazy. We were freezing cold on this thing, but I was still so excited to on the parade, and you're going down, or you're going down the street, and the people, thousands of people, and you're waving, and man, it was just one of the most fun things ever. And then finally you get to the part of you come in the front of the reviewing stand, where Al Roker, of course, is on NBC, and they're showing the parade, and then Al is the guy who's talking to the world, or everybody that's watching it on television. Al's describing all the floats as they go by, and so here we come. We know we're right in front of the reviewing stand, and all of a sudden you look up, you see Al Roker up there, and you're waving, and there's all the cameras, and Al Roker. Over the microphone, we could all hear him. Over the loudspeakers, we could all hear him say, "And here's the float from the WWE, and there's Vince McMahon, and there's Triple H, and there's good old JR." And of course, Al's reading this off a script, right? And so he didn't know us from a block punt. So there's good old JR, and there's Jerry the Ring Lawler.
Oh.
So, I don't know if it's a typo or if he just didn't read it right, but instead of Jerry the King, I became Jerry the Ring Lawler. And when he said this, the camera's on me, right? And a smile goes off my face. It's like a look of shock. I'm just like, did he just say Jerry the Ring Lawler? I was humiliated. My big shot here on the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and Al Roker calls me Jerry the Ring Lawler. So Al is going to be at WrestleMania, and he's going to be, I hope he doesn't botch the intro to the Miz and Maurice and John Cena and Nikki Bella like he did me, but I'm going to have a chance to confront him there at WrestleMania and tell him that I've been upset about this ever since the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Well, with the Miz, there's a certain word that rhymes with Miz that he could botch, and if he says it over the air, he'll get in trouble.
I'm not going there.
I'm not saying it, but
right.
People can use their imagination.
Oh Lord, Glenn, I'm just imagining you eating one more of these barbecue sandwiches. You can't do it, can you? You cannot.
I'm done.
You're done.
I'm tapping out. Here's a question. We didn't answer any questions last week. We're going to answer one question from a reader. This comes via the email dinnerwiththeking@patavenue.com. This is from Tim Wheat, and he's in Memphis. And he goes, Jerry, Memphis is known as the home of the four kings. You, MLK, Martin Luther King, Elvis, and B.B. King. Did you ever meet Elvis back in the day?
I did not ever have a chance to actually meet Elvis. I saw him perform in person, but I didn't ever get the chance to meet him. But if you'd read my book, and this can be a story one podcast as well. Not only did I almost have the chance to meet him, but right before he passed away, we spoke with his father, Vernon, and they had approached Elvis about it. But I did talk with Vernon on the telephone about actually having a match at the Mid-South Coliseum, wrestling versus mixed martial arts, which of course Elvis was really big into at the time. We actually spoke about having a match between Elvis and I, and his father Vernon says, "Hey, Elvis is going to get started getting in shape for his upcoming tour. When he gets finished with this tour, we'll get back with you because Elvis thinks it's a great idea." And then of course he passed away before he even did the tour. But do what?
Do you think Elvis is still alive?
No, I don't think Elvis is still alive. I do not.
You think he avoided? He doesn't trying to avoid you after all these years, trying to avoid a confrontation with the king?
He's like Al Roker. He's been out there just all these years. No. I unfortunately I think he's not. But you know what? It's so amazing to see what he's been. Elvis has been gone for nearly 40 years now, and it's crazy that the impact that he still has on the city here in Memphis. I mean, and the popularity that this guy still has. I mean, thousands and thousands of people every day still flock to see Elvis's home here at Graceland. It's unbelievable.
I went there for the first time a couple of years ago. Tim Wheat goes on to ask you about meeting celebrities throughout the 70s and 80s in Memphis, but that's for a whole different show. I think we can do a whole show on you meeting celebrities and people wanting to meet you and whatnot, famous people. So I think we can say that for another show. You agree?
Yeah, that's fine, because that's one of the great things about this business, because I've still, I've been a fan of so many different things, just all sorts of pop culture, and then to get into a position to where these people that you've been a fan of actually want to meet you or enjoy meeting you, athletes and movie and TV stars and that sort of thing. That's been one of the highlights of my life. I mean, getting to be around and rub shoulders with these people that I was just, swoon over myself as a kid growing up or whatever. Yeah, just like William Shatner. I mean, who would have ever dreamed when I was, in college or sitting around watching William Shatner on Star Trek, that one day, I'm just sitting there tuning in, watching him every week on TV, that one day he would be inducting me into the WWE Hall of Fame. I mean, things like that have happened over my career that just been still hard for me to believe.
Really quick before we wrap it up, before we get out of here, the check is on the table. I'm trying to get out of here.
Okay, go ahead. Trust me, I've already worked out a deal now. We don't have to pay full price. I couldn't afford to pay full price for your meals.
We got 6 of these.
So I'll get the check again today.
This is according to sources. Now I preface this. I'm not sure if this is true or not, but they're actually, since the WrestleMania theme this year is the Ultimate Thrill Ride, they're actually, I think, building a roller coaster for the stage at WrestleMania. There's some, all the dirt sheets are talking about it. There's a construction worker that's working on it. Told his source, told his cousin, who told his friend, who told his brother, whatever. I mean, but they're possibly building this massive structure that's going to include a roller coaster at WrestleMania. So it's going to be a sight to behold, and you're going to be calling the match, so you're going to have the best seat in the house.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to it. That is one of the things that amazes me every year when I get to WrestleMania and go out there early in the day before the doors open to see the set. It's always just, and every year it gets bigger and better. And I've heard rumblings of just what you're talking about, and I can just imagine what this is going to be like. But yeah, the sets that they do for WrestleMania are just unbelievable. I look at them and just go, how do they do it? Sometimes it's beyond my comprehension of how they put these things together. They're amazing.
It's going to be a great, you can get me in, King, right? You can get me in WrestleMania, right? Yeah? No?
I know you're kidding now, right? You're lucky to get into my barbecue. You're lucky to get in my barbecue joint, much less get into WrestleMania. Come on.
Damn it.
I'm sure you'll be standing around. I'm going to be signing there at WrestleCon and that sort of thing. So I'm sure you'll be hanging out and waiting to walk in on my coattails somehow.
Come on, coattails. All right. You can follow the show at Dinner with King on Twitter. We're going to have some podcast shirts here shortly. We'll announce it online via Twitter. And King, you'll be signing this Friday and Saturday, I believe. Well, Friday, we should probably mention.
Friday morning early. I mean, I'll be there as soon as WrestleCon opens and going till about either noon or 1 o'clock, something like that. And then Saturday morning as well.
And you'll be signing still with JR.
I'm really hoping. The last I heard from JR, they said he is going to be there for Hall of Fame, and so hopefully he'll be there at WrestleCon as well. And yeah, we'll be signing together.
Okay, so like I said, Jerry will be there this weekend. And make sure if you see Jerry, make sure you tell him you like the podcast, because.
Yeah, please.
Tell me like the podcast.
That'd be great.
And the barbecue. You bring any barbecue down?
Or if you don't like it, tell me you don't like it. I'm on Glenn. That's the people ask me all the time. Why do you have that other guy? They call you the other guy. They say, why do you have the other guy on that show with you? And I say, well, it's to share the blame. If anything goes wrong, I can blame it on Glenn.
We'll talk to you guys next week, but I have to say, Jerry, I appreciate the barbecue, even though I'm full as hell.
Yeah, I know. I just saw you try to loosen your belt and you can't even find it.
Next week on Dinner with the King.
In the ring, representing himself, Jerry the King Lawler. And please welcome, representing Extreme Championship Wrestling, Paul E. Dangerously.
The preceding show is a Pod Avenue production.